Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing the Pokemon that can core break the Clodsire Shadow Feraligatr core, and that is Oranguru. Oranguru was double buffed this season. Trailblaze is now cheaper, and it got access to the new move Brutal Swing. This means it's far faster to charge moves, and it can boost up confusions. Combine that with the fact that it beats both Clodsire and Feraligatr in all even shields, and you have a terrific Pokemon that is going to do well in the Open Great League and in play Pokemon tournaments. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at the double buff to Oranguru in the Open Great League. Hopping into the first match, leading Oranguru into Clodsire, opponent is going to save switch into a Charge-a-Bug, and they're going to regret that decision as I get to bank a ton of energy and bring in Carbink. Oranguru and Carbink form a nearly perfect core pairing. Carbink is extremely good at shutting down mandibuzz, which is going to be the biggest threat to Oranguru in the meta. As of course Oranguru can do many things, but defeating mandibuzz is not one of them as it's completely walled. Back in comes the Clodsire. I'm going to throw this Moonblast to stall the switch timer because I'm thinking it could be mandibuzz in the back. So I'm actually going to end up saving the Carbink and pivoting out into the Dunsparce. Again, one of the nice things about the fastest switch timer is if you end up wanting to switch out, you have that ability more frequently. In the back, they have Feraligatr, so it's not the team that I was expecting, but the good news is the game is over. They shield a Drill Run. If they didn't, I can just Confusion down, but by shielding, they're now just going to get completely swept by Oranguru. Oranguru gets to start ramping up its damage, going for the Trailblaze. That connects, farming down the Feraligatr. There's just no hope for the Clodsire. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping into the next match, Oranguru versus Gastrodon. This is a good lead. Oranguru does not have an advantage in terms of the fast move damage, as Mud Slap is an incredibly cracked move. However, once you start boosting up with Trailblazes, these confusions become a massive problem for the opponent. Gastrodon has enough for a potential Earth Power. I decide to respect it with a shield at the last second, and I get the shield call right. That's massive. This is not enough for an Earth Power. It's only going to be a Body Slam. So I'm going to be able to no shield, and then look at this. I can double up on Brutal Swings, so my opponent can't shield, because if they do, I have another Brutal Swing ready to go. So I'm able to win the ones. In comes Mandibuzz, and I'm immediately going to switch out, saving my energy and bring in the Dunsparce. This is the exact same thing you're going to do if you see a Mandibuzz lead. Switch out into the Dunsparce because any energy that you have on that Oranguru is just completely useless against Mandy. Rock Slide will connect. Rock Slide did get nerfed this season, so Rock Slide not going to hit very hard onto Mandibuzz, but the extra rollout damage that happened in this season's balance patch does definitely add up. I will fire off the Rock Slide. Rock Slide into the Mandibuzz, again, will not be able to KO, but my plan is to shield and go for a farm down. Opponent should look to switch out after this Aerial Ace, and they do. It is Drifblim in the back, and this game is so over. The opponent with double flyers in the back, but couldn't afford to switch out because Drifblim gets shredded by Oranguru. So they were core broken on the lead. They're forced to stay in, and now, oh no, I get the combo play with the Brutal Swing. Goodbye, Drifblim. Never even gets to throw a move. In comes the Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz, unfortunately, will get to see my third, as they're going to be able to knock out the Dunsparce. And I guess, if they really want, I can show them the Carbink. One Rock Throw will secure that game. We move to the next match here, leading Oranguru into Mandibuzz. This is the worst case scenario lead. I'm going to throw one Confusion, save switch out into Dunsparce. My opponent responds with a Clodsire. This is a matchup that is potentially flippable for the Dunsparce. Ideally, if you're able to shield an Earthquake, it puts you in a pretty decent spot. Here, my opponent farms just shy of 100, but they throw on less than optimal timing. I let it go, they actually land the Earthquake, and this complicates things. If I'm able to correctly shield an Earthquake, then I believe Up Energy Dunsparce can flip this, whereas, unfortunately, since an Earthquake landed, my opponent can now go for the cheaper Stone Edge. So I'm going to start shielding Stone Edges, and just look to continually overfarm with the Dunsparce. I'm not going to be able to flip the twos here because the Earthquake landed. Looking at it, unfortunately, the math is just not adding up as my opponent is able to outpace and they're on a 6 cycle. So I'm going to farm up as much as I can and basically bluff that I'm at the back-to-back. I'm gambling that there's been enough 4-3 rotations that they're not sure if I'm at the back-to-back or not. They end up letting it go, and winning switch advantage is going to win me this game. I can now launch Rock Slide after Rock Slide at this Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz, I'm really hoping will shield one of these, because obviously they're Mandibuzz against the Carbink. They end up letting it go. They bring out Feraligatr, and I can send in Oranguru. Oranguru does great into Feraligatr because of that unique Psychic Normal typing. It's going to single resist the Shadow Claws, which means Feraligatr is never going to be able to farm down. I'm down a shield, which means this is now a losing matchup, but I can boost up my damage with Trailblaze. I was a little surprised they ended up throwing 4 in the move there instead of 3. They wouldn't have had to take that extra boosted confusion, but either way, I'm just in a winning position. I can try and go for a bad manners catch, but even failing it won't cost me the game. I try for the catch, I don't get the catch, but the good news is this game is still unlosable, because what is a Mandibuzz going to do to a Carbink? I'll give you that answer. A whole lot of nothing. Mandibuzz has all the energy it could ever ask for. Dark Pulse after Dark Pulse. And look at that. If you're tired of seeing Mandibuzz, this Pokemon right here. It has access to the newly buffed Power Gem. Rock Slide, of course, did get nerfed, which means Rock Slide not going to be as effective, but Power Gem works out pretty nicely for the Carbink. I can farm all the way down. I could have farmed on the Feraligatr as well, but may as well launch the Moonblast since we have it. Down goes Feraligatr, and that's another win. Hopping into the next match, Oranguru versus Shadow Dragonite. This is fine for Oranguru, but I want to check and see what they have in the back. Here, I can throw as soon as I get it and outpace by 1 turn, but I was a little worried about a catch. So instead, I'm just going to go for the shield and get extra energy. In comes Feraligatr, and this opponent is in a very difficult position now. My Dunsparce is not in a range where a Shadow Hydro Cannon will be able to KO, as unfortunately they end up mistiming there and giving me a free rollout. To be fair to my opponent here, when I was playing against Dunsparce last night, I was giving free rollouts as well. The animation is very deceiving. I'm going to be able to either force switch, or I'm going to be able to force the second shield. If they shield, there's no point in staying in and farming down. I'm going to aggressively pivot into the Oranguru. Up energy, I know I'm going to be able to crush that Dragonite. They go for a crunch. Very happy that I shielded there. In the back, oh no, it's Charjabug. And the opponent has made a fatal error. They are ABA weak to Carbink. Bastiodon is dead. With the Smackdown nerf, it's way worse than it was before. But Carbink is very much alive, and this opponent is about to pay a severe price. Brutal Swing will land. They're forced to throw energy, and then I can just farm all the way down with Carbink. Nothing they have remaining on their team is making it to a move. In comes Carbink, farming down the Charjabug. What's coming in to get farmed down next? Is it going to be that Gator? No, it's going to be the Dragonite. Dragonite getting all the way farmed out by the Carbink. It goes Feraligatr, Carbink with a triple kill, and that's another win. We've got a bit of a core breaker on the lead, Oranguru versus Shadow Alolan Sandslash. I can very safely safe switch into the Dunsparce. Opponent chooses to stay in, and they're going to fire off a move. I'm very okay no shielding this. They go for the Ice Punch. They're going to switch out into Feraligatr, and it appears the opponent is completely core broken by the Dunsparce safe switch. Drill Run will land, and there's more where that came from. Honestly, my goal in this situation is shield advantage that I can convert into an energy lead on Oranguru. Switch advantage does nothing for me in this game because Carbink is pretty soft to Alolan Sandslash and even shields. So my goal here is just to bring in Oranguru and get massive farm. Thinking about it, a Shadow Hydro Cannon is going to do a lot more than a Drill Run from a Sandslash, so I'll shield it up because that's the move that's going to do the most damage, and I'm gambling on the fact that they'll bring back in the Sandslash, and they do. That's massive. That play, if they have a Mandibuzz in the back, is instantly game losing for me, but since they don't and they bring in the Sandslash, I'm now in a good spot. I'm pretty sure I can Confusion this into a range where a Brutal Swing should be able to pick up a knockout onto the Sandslash. Brutal Swing gets shielded. They're weak to Oranguru in the back. I'm definitely going to be shielding now, as it seems like Oranguru can put in some nice work versus whatever their third is. I'm going to be able to outpace. I wait the turn to make sure they don't get the catch, and Brutal Swing will pick up the knockout. What is that final Pokemon in the back? It's going to be a Dragapult. What a cool pick from the opponent. They're running Astonish on Dragapult. Unfortunately for them, Carbink is here to shut it all down, as Carbink is going to be able to tank the Shadow Ball, make it to the Power Gem, and that's going to be game over for the Dragapult. Very cool team from my opponent, but unfortunately, Oranguru up energy was just extremely deadly into their team. Speaking of Pokemon that are deadly up energy, I lead Oranguru into Typhlosion. Typhlosion decides to bank 2 Incinerates worth of energy, and out comes Astonished Decidueye. So this opponent core broken by the Dunsparce. If Astonished Decidueye is their best answer to a Dunsparce, then they don't have an answer to a Dunsparce. Frenzy Plant will connect. I'm going to farm up to the back-to-back Rock Slides. I think this is a range where Rock Slide can knock out. The Rock Slide barely does not. I think it would have been a simultaneous KO if I ended up going for the fast move. So I decide that I'm just going to go for Switch, and I get Switch. In comes Carbink. They're going to be able to make a Blast Burn. That's very fine. They should be switching out after this Blast Burn. Opponent is staying, and I realize a second too late after I hit that no shield button. They're staying because they're core broken. And if it's what I think it is, a mandibuzz, I'm really going to have want to have shielded that Blast Burn. Oh my goodness. This might now actually be a losable game for me. The good news is that I still tank a move. A Dark Pulse is not going to put me into farm down range. I actually go for an Aerial Ace bait there, so that works out a little bit better. Carbink's pacing is not the greatest this season, but it's just so dominant, and considering that Mandibuzz is on most teams, having something like this that can just completely invalidate Mandibuzz, even after I've lost 75% of my HP, is extremely valuable. I'm going to farm up, switch into the Oranguru, and if they don't throw energy, I'm going to be firing off these Brutal Swings and just trying to get as much damage as I can. Opponent is forced to throw quite a bit of energy, and whether they tried to overfarm or not, the game was over at this point because Carbink is going to be able to make a Power Gem, or if they stayed and farmed up a ton of energy, then I could have made it to 2 Brutal Swings. So either way, my opponent was just in a very difficult spot. Even though I had let my Carbink get far too low, Carbink is still able to clutch. We see a Nightmare lead in the next match, Oranguru versus Shadow Drapion. Oranguru has nothing for Dark type, so I am going to safe switch into the Dunsparce. Opponent is going to throw an alignment, giving me a rollout for free. Again, timing versus the Dunsparce, very difficult. Unfortunately, they do get a debuff, and they end up switching out and saving their Drapion as they bring in Umbreon. They had thrown one in the move, so the better play for me would have been to just wait the turn, see the Poison Sting, and fire off that Drill Run, because getting a Drill Run onto that Drapion or forcing a shield would have been a lot more valuable than it landing on this Umbreon. Umbreon's going to go for a farm down. I'm not going to let that happen. Instead, I'm going to bank energy and then bring in Carbink. They're forced to go for the Last Resort or Foul Play, which doesn't do a lot of damage. You actually have Psychic, and in the back is Azumarill. So I have pretty much been hard countered here. This is a really difficult spot to be in. Azu is going to be firing off an Ice Beam. Ice Beam not going to do a ton of damage to the Carbink. Carbink is going to look to fire off the Moonblast. Moonblast would inflict some solid damage. Azumarill will commit the shield. Switch Clock will be up soon. I switch into Oranguru and I get the catch. I'm fighting for my life in this game, trying to dance as much as I can. Azumarill is going to switch out. In comes the Drapion, as Drapion will go for the crunch. I'm going to commit the shield, and now I have a difficult choice. Do I go for the cheaper Brutal Swing, or do I buff my attack with Trailblaze? I decide to go for Trailblaze. I'm just looking to buff up my Oranguru as much as I can. Oranguru now in a position where it's forced to shield, and this is looking very, very difficult. Oranguru forced to go for the Brutal Swing, so in hindsight, I think I should have double Brutal Swing there instead of going for a Trailblaze. Opponent brings in the Umbreon, farming up energy to switch and the catch onto the Carbink. We're catching moves left and right, doing what we can to fight back in this game. In comes the Azumarill. I can't really afford to throw this energy because if I do, I'm just getting farmed down, and they're going to pick up a knockout with an Ice Beam, and at this point, I just think I'm too low. If I had waited my Switch Clock, maybe I could have caught onto Dunsparce here, gone for a CMP sack swap, but even so, the Umbreon is still alive, so I really feel like I did what I could in this game, just dancing in and out, catching moves, but unfortunately, the opponent's team was just too bulky, so I will concede the match. Hopping into the final match, Oranguru versus Serperior, and I'm very fine playing out this lead with Oranguru. Oranguru does not have a winning matchup here. I was very surprised to see my opponent actually CMP tie my Oranguru. I'm very sad I threw the move there. I would have loved a free confusion. But Oranguru can make it very close in the ones. I end up calling it, so they're going to be able to land a Frenzy Plant. Landing a Frenzy Plant, of course, means they can now go for Aerial Aces, which is going to have superior pacing. I can throw 2 more. My opponent is at an Aerial Ace. If they end up shielding, then they're going to throw 1 and and the Aerial. So I'm going to wait the turn, switch, and catch and sneak simultaneously onto the Dunsparce. I'm hoping this will allow me to get a rollout farm down here, but the Serperior is going to just be able to make it to a Frenzy Plant. I'm still not shielding the Dunsparce. Dunsparce can tank that, no problem. In comes a Licky, and Licky is going to get hit with the Drill Run. Drill Run, not going to do a lot. Licky is very bulky. I go for Drill Run number 2, and I actually didn't see a sneak there. So I think this is going to be charge attack priority, and it is. Okay, that works out great for me. I'm now just going to go for an aggressive farm down with the carbink. In comes the carbink. In the back is a Talonflame Trainer. Oh no. A lot of people like pairing grass with fire, and with the grass out of the way, there's nothing to stop the rampage of Carbink. Carbink farms all the way down, and the opponent will concede the match. Overall, this team worked amazingly well for me. I played this team during ranks 10 and 11, and I think the last 2 games of 9, and I went 11-1 against some pretty decent competition. I was seeing a lot of legend poses among the battlers that I was playing against, so to me, Oranguru feels extremely legit in this current meta. Due to the fact that it got Brutal Swing and now gets to moves every 3 confusions, helps its pacing quite a bit, and being able to boost those confusions with Trailblaze, and being one of the only Pokemon that can break that Clodsire Feraligatr core that we identified on day 1 as just the best core in the meta. Oranguru is legit, and we're going to start seeing a lot more of it in Go Battle League as well as in the Show 6 Play Pokemon tournament. The first tournament, by the way, is an in-person tournament. I believe not this weekend, but next weekend in Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm very excited for that tournament because seeing what strategies people come up with on the competitive circuit as they try and build their teams of 6 is going to be very exciting. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.